I'm not gonna lie, this is the same shirt that I wore in the Nets video. If you watched my last video, I'm wearing the same shirt. And I really considered changing my shirt, which I do sometimes because there's always that one person in the comments that's like, hey, don't you ever wash your clothes? Why are you wearing the same shirt? It's possible for me to record 2 videos in the same day. Oh, I'm just saying. So I'm gonna wear the same shirt. Anyway, welcome back everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're talking about another team that recently got bounced out of the NBA playoffs. It is the Indiana Pacers, who unfortunately were swept out of the first round by the Miami Heat. But there are a lot of really interesting things to talk about with this team moving forward as it relates to Victor Oladipo and his upcoming free agency in 2021, Domantas Sabonis now becoming an all-star type player and what that means for Myles Turner, potential trades, free agency stuff, head coaching stuff, lots and lots of stuff to talk about here for Indiana. And I'm really excited to kind of get into what this season meant for them and then kind of where they're going to go moving forward. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload multiple times per week, and leaving a like rating is a great way to let me know that you're enjoying the content, and it helps the video out a ton as well. With that said, let's go and jump into it. Okay, so the Indiana Pacers over the last 5 or so years have pretty much always been kind of a surprising team, a team that you don't really think about a ton at the top of the Eastern Conference, but they're always kind of there, right? They're always kind of in that like 4 to 5 seed range. And unfortunately for them, that hasn't translated to postseason success, but they've been a surprising regular season team. However, they haven't won a postseason series since 2014, and they have lost in the first round 5 consecutive years, including, of course, this year. Which means that they're kind of in a weird spot because there's talent on this roster. Domantas Sabonis was an all-star for the first time this season. Victor Oladipo, when healthy not that long ago, was an all-NBA caliber player. Malcolm Brogdon had a pretty solid year. TJ Warren was the star of the bubble. Myles Turner is still a young and interesting player. They've got shooters on the roster. They've got young players. There's still plenty of talent here in Indiana, and it's worth noting that yes, they did get swept in the first round of the playoffs, but Sabonis wasn't playing, and Victor Oladipo was still extremely rusty, trying to come back from an injury that initially he didn't even think he was going to play in the bubble with. And so realistically, when you look at this roster, this is not a first round exit year after year type of roster. There's plenty of depth. There's some top end talent with some all-star and an all-NBA guy, at least previously. And it kind of is like, what exactly do you do here, right? And I think that this team is legitimately at a crossroads this offseason in 2 specific places. One is the head coaching position, and the other is in the front court. Let's begin with the head coaching thing. So Nate McMillan has plenty of detractors on Twitter and elsewhere. I don't think he's awful, but I think that this is going to come down to, you know, is he the guy? Is he just kind of the placeholder that got this team to where they need to be, but isn't going to be the guy to take them to quote unquote the next level with this roster? Or is he someone that is just going to be able to continue to make them as good as this group can be, and it's just a roster construction issue and they don't have the top end talent to get to that next level regardless of who the coach is? If it's up to me, I understand that it's a tough decision, and I fully expect the Pacers to evaluate the head coaching position this offseason, but ultimately, I would probably keep Nate McMillan, and I understand that that's probably a bit of an unpopular opinion for some people, but when you consider the amount of injuries that they've had to deal with in the last 18 months, going back to the Oladipo thing, Sabonis not playing in the bubble, I don't think that you can judge this team based off of a first-round sweep, especially in a series in which a good amount of the games were close, and you have to look at how many players have shown up to Indiana and really improved. Oladipo, of course, is an example. Sabonis is an example. TJ Warren had an awesome bubble. Aaron Holiday looks like he could potentially be a semi-up-and-coming player. Justin Holiday was shooting the ball extremely well. Malcolm Brogdon had a great start to the year. Jeremy Lamb has had a nice year. Doug McDermott, all these guys, when they get to Indiana, they have nice seasons. So I don't necessarily think that this is a get rid of the coach and everything is solved issue. So I would probably keep Nate McMillan, especially because the other head coaches on the market right now aren't all that exciting anyway. Now, when you look at the roster, the interesting thing is they can do pretty much everything they want because basically everybody is coming back next season except for Justin Holiday, who is a free agent this offseason. But you also have to look forward a little bit because Victor Oladipo is a 2021 free agent as well. And when you look at the roster up and down, as I said earlier, they have a really good rotation here. Brogdon, Oladipo, Sabonis, Turner, Lamb, McDermott, Warren, both Holidays if they re-sign the other one. But the real question is not do they have the depth, but do they have enough top-end talent? I think the answer is maybe. Victor Oladipo has got to get back to All-NBA form, or there's going to be some big decisions made in Indiana within the next 6 to 8 months. Depending on when next season starts, if Victor Oladipo doesn't look like his All-NBA self, that changes a lot of things for this roster because Sabonis is a nice player, but they just don't have the top end talent specifically in terms of their perimeter creation, even as good as TJ Warren was in the bubble, to justify continuing to push forward and just being like a 5 seed every year. Now, is that going to happen? I have no idea. It's really difficult to project what's going to happen with Victor Oladipo, but let's just say that they maintain this offseason, and at least at those positions. They keep the head coach. They're not making any significant changes on the perimeter. They're keeping Oladipo. The big focal point here in terms of where they could potentially make some moves on the roster, I think, is in the front court. And I don't know how long I've been saying this, at least kind of like passive aggressively, but I'm just going to come out and say it now. I think that Myles Turner needs to be moved. I don't think that it works with Sabonis. It's not a Myles Turner's a bad player thing. It's just a bad fit. Like, Myles Turner can hit some jump shots. He can protect the rim. He's a good defender. And Sabonis is a really good offensive player, and they just don't fit together on the court at the same time. And when you're constantly trying to juggle who is and is not on the court, and it's a negative rating when they're both on the floor, and you really can only run one of them at once, which means their minutes are lowered. Both of them are unhappy. They're both signed to long-term deals. You got to make a decision. If it's up to me, I'm moving Myles Turner. I understand the argument for potentially moving Domantas Sabonis because his value is higher right now because he did just make an all-star team, but I just think that he's the better player. I'd rather keep him, and then Turner has value to other teams because he is still young. He has that long-term contract, and he is the type of player that can fit in potentially as a complementary option to other teams. He can shoot and he can defend the rim, and that's pretty much all that a lot of other teams are going to ask him to do. The problem right now in Indiana is he's having to shoot jump shots out of necessity for this team because Sabonis obviously doesn't shoot. And so Turner is basically just an outside shooter on offense, which isn't helping their team and isn't helping their spacing because he's just simply not a good enough floor spacer to be full-time in that role. And maybe we'll do a Myles Turner trade machine at some point, but essentially it comes down to getting another wing combo 3-4 type player and just opening up more space for Sabonis. They've got a mid-first round pick from last year that's ready to jump into the rotation and take up those minutes as the backup 5. They've got other guys that can play kind of that combo forward spot like TJ Warren, but they need other players. You can always use more wings that can defend and can shoot, especially with Jeremy Lamb trying to recover from an injury. And I would just rather have that on my roster than Myles Turner right now. It has nothing to do with him as a player. It's just a fit issue and the fact that I would rather keep Sabonis. The other interesting point here to keep in mind is that Victor Oladipo is a 2021 free agent, and if they wanted to try and move him, now would be the time. And there's going to be plenty of trade machines and all kinds of different rumors coming out about Oladipo, but at the end of the day, I don't think that you sell low on a former All-NBA caliber player right now the way that Victor Oladipo's value is. It's just too low compared to what it was before, and basically all you do is you go into the season, and if he plays really well, great, you re-sign him. If he doesn't play well, you let him walk. That's pretty much all it comes down to. There's not really a decision to be made here this offseason as far as a trade for Oladipo, unless one team is just completely in love with him and they want to give you big value for him. I don't think you sell low and you just move forward from here and see what happens in the summer of 2021 and run it back with this roster. So at the end of the day for the Pacers, I think they'll evaluate the head coaching position. If it was up to me, I would keep McMillan, but I would completely understand if they brought in a new coach. I think they're going to evaluate the possibility of moving Oladipo and ultimately come to the decision that it makes more sense to keep him. And really the big move to be made here is moving Myles Turner and creating more space on the inside for Domantas Sabonis, adding more spacing, adding more wings on the roster in exchange for Turner, and moving forward from there. And if they have a good season, you can re-sign Oladipo and you move forward from there, and you've got this core of Brogdon and Oladipo and Sabonis and Lamb and Warren and McDermott and all these other guys, whatever you get in exchange for Turner. And if it doesn't go well, Oladipo walks, or you sign and trade him, and you potentially look at some much bigger changes at the head coaching position and potentially throughout the roster as well. So I don't think that this is the blow it up off season for Indiana right now, but I think if things don't go well next season, they could potentially be in a blow it up type situation. But if things do go well, maybe their assets increase in value and they can potentially make a move. You never know what can happen in the NBA. That's just where I'm at right now for Indiana. But yeah, that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.